I remember the exact moment I stopped being a girl and became someone else's property. I was 16, sitting on my grandmother's porch swing in Georgia, watching fireflies dance in the humid evening air when my mother came out and sat beside me. She didn't say hello, she just said, "Megan, Mr. Caldwell has made an offer for you, and your father has accepted." Before that night, I was just Megan Holt, a girl who loved basketball and hated algebra, who secretly wrote poetry in a notebook under my mattress, who dreamed about going to college in Atlanta and maybe becoming a veterinarian. I had a part-time job at the Dairy Queen on Route 9, and my best friend Tasha and I used to spend our Friday nights driving around, listening to Taylor Swift and talking about which boys at Jefferson High were cute. I was normal, I was free, even though I didn't know it then. Mr. Caldwell was my father's business associate. I had seen him maybe 5 times in my entire life, always at company picnics or holiday parties. He was 61 years old with silver hair and these piercing blue eyes that never seemed to blink quite enough. He owned half the commercial real estate in our county, plus some kind of manufacturing business 2 towns over. My father worked for him, managed one of his warehouses. That's how this started. That's how I became currency. The pressure didn't come all at once. It was like water slowly filling a room. You don't notice it rising until you're drowning. First, my parents started talking about how expensive college was, how student loans ruin people's lives. Then my mother started mentioning how Mr. Caldwell was such a kind man, how he donated to the church, how his first wife had passed and he was lonely. Then they started inviting him to dinner. I was forced to wear dresses and serve him sweet tea and smile while he asked me about my grades and my hobbies in this voice that was somehow both gentle and completely terrifying. I was confused for so long. I kept thinking, surely this isn't what it looks like. Surely my parents aren't actually considering this. I was 16, and when I finally worked up the courage to ask my mother if Mr. Caldwell was courting me, she slapped me across the face. Not hard, but enough to shock me silent. She said I was being disrespectful, that I didn't understand how the world worked, that opportunities like this don't come along for girls like me, as if I was some category of person who didn't deserve to choose her own life. By the time I turned 17, the deal was done. My father had been promoted to regional manager. We had a new car. My younger brother's tuition at the private academy was paid through graduation. I was the exchange rate for all of it. I tried to run away once, got as far as the bus station in Macon before my uncle found me. They didn't yell when they brought me back. They just looked at me with this disappointment that cut deeper than any screaming could have. They said I was being selfish. They said Mr. Caldwell was a good man who would take care of me. They said love grows over time. The wedding was on a Saturday in June at the country club where I'd once attended a debutante ball I didn't want to go to. I wore a white dress that cost more than my mother's car, and I felt like I was suffocating in it. I kept looking at the doors, wondering if I could run, if anyone would stop me. My hands were shaking so badly that my cousin had to hold my bouquet for me. When they played the wedding march, my legs went numb. I don't remember walking down the aisle. I just remember suddenly being there, in front of him, smelling his cologne that reminded me of my grandfather's medicine cabinet. He said his vows like he was reading a grocery list. I was crying, and everyone thought they were happy tears. My mother kept dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, looking proud. I was scared, so scared that I was going to disappear completely, that the girl who loved basketball and wrote poetry was going to be buried under this white dress and this new last name and this life that had been constructed around me like a cage. His house, our house, was this massive stone mansion on 20 acres, with a pool I was afraid to swim in and rooms I wasn't allowed to enter without permission. The first night, he showed me to my bedroom, which was separate from his, and said he would give me time to adjust. I lay in that king-size bed staring at the ceiling until morning, wondering if this was mercy or just the first course of a longer meal. The age difference created these moments that still make my skin crawl when I think about them. He would call me kiddo sometimes, which made me feel about 6 years old. He had a specific way he wanted his eggs cooked, and he would stand in the kitchen watching me make them, correcting my technique. He didn't like my music, so I stopped listening to it. He thought my clothes were too youthful, so I let his secretary take me shopping for appropriate wife attire. I was 18 by then, and I dressed like I was 45. People's reactions were the strangest part. At church, the other women treated me like I was some kind of prodigy. This girl who had secured her future so young. They would squeeze my hand and say how lucky I was, how handsome Mr. Caldwell was for his age, how I must be so mature to handle such a responsibility. My old friends disappeared gradually, not all at once. Tasha stopped returning my calls. I think she didn't know what to say to me anymore. I didn't know what to say to myself. I tried to accept my life. I really did. I learned to cook his meals the way he liked them. I learned to host his business dinners without embarrassing him. I learned to be quiet when he talked, to agree with his opinions, to anticipate his needs before he voiced them. I told myself this was what being an adult meant: sacrifice, duty, the death of the self for the comfort of others. Some days I almost believed it, but I'm 20 now. 2 years of this life, and I'm still here, still breathing, still that girl who loved basketball even though I haven't touched a ball since the wedding. I started sneaking books from the library in town, books about women's rights, about psychology, about women who escaped. I hide them in the back of my closet. I started writing poetry again late at night on my phone where he can't find it. I'm saving money, little bits here and there, cash back from grocery shopping, birthday checks from relatives he doesn't know about. I don't know if I'll leave. I don't know if I'm brave enough or if I'm too broken to survive out there on my own after being kept like a pet for so long. But I'm starting to remember who I was. I'm starting to believe that girl might still be in here somewhere, waiting, and maybe that's enough for now. Maybe that's the beginning of finding my way back to myself. I'm Megan. I'm 20 years old, and this is only the middle of my story, not the end.